this is the act, this is the truth. And then what follows from it is a natural, logical progression. So if you say there is love, then, activate the principle of love, then love will follow. If you're arguing about something and saying, is this right, is that wrong, that would be inductive. So that's where the whole idea of judgment comes in, the whole idea of argument and looking at different sides and comparing different attributes to come up with what the truth would be. So it's kind of going from the top down, or from the lower to the higher. So from the principle to the form, or from the individualized or separate aspects to the actual principle. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So what I found most interesting, you'll see here, is under the individual objective, like I said, is the inductive reasoning. And this is where we have our faculties for discernment, for judgment, for analysis. And we have that. Troward, I think, gives that to the objective as well, the universal objective, which means all of God. But Holmes specifically says that those attributes are only through the individual. So according to Ernest Holmes, we only have the capacity for discernment, for argument, for comparing things. The universal objective doesn't. So only us as individuals, step down from God, do we have those qualities, those capabilities, if you will. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's really...
So this helps me to understand why treatment works. Because I use my own individualized subjective, using the thought, the truth, the deductive reasoning, the will, the control, to place my thoughts, not just my thoughts, your intentions, your affirmations into the universal subjective, which is the engine, which is the processor. Like almost, if you think of it as a computer, you're the user who's implanting, or you're typing in to the subjective what you want to happen. So you're the user, if you were using computer language, and you're submitting it into the universal subjective, whose only ability to do is to be a blind force that automatically acts on whatever you give to it. So, okay, so there are a couple of differences between Holmes and Troward when it comes to the objective mind. And I thought this was interesting. He says, Troward says, that it's limited. It's confusing for me, but that was in our chart, that the objective, the universal objective, is limited. Over here, it's unlimited. It's the all. Okay? And then...
Yeah. What do you mean it's limited? I don't understand how could it be limited if we're talking about...
I know, but that was on the sheet that was given out, so I'm taking it from there.
Okay, so let's hold that. We'll probably have to go back and research that one.
And you know what, I can give maybe my impression of why it's limited, if you want to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sure.
I think it's limited because there's the capacity to, in the objective, is the ability to narrow down a concept or an idea or a desire. And that's how I understand it. I could be wrong, but it's limiting. It's not saying it's everything, but it's like one aspect of God, for example. But I don't know.
Well, when you get to the individual, it is, right?
Right.
The individual objective, but in fact, the
But the universal objective should not be limited at
Right,
all, like
correct.
you were saying. Again, like you were
so
saying.
we'll
Should not be.
so we'll work that one.
We'll work that out, but that
Yeah.
was on the list. Okay.
Good that you saw that.
And then it could also be like a limited partnership, not really limiting the partnership. It would just be a facility with 3 people with limited partnership. So you're not limiting anything in the company.
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. So, go ahead, Andrew.
Is it okay if I ask questions?
Well, let's let her get through,
Okay.
okay?
So, and then the other difference, the other significant difference is that according to Thomas Troward, the objective is relative. And over here, according to Troward, it's absolute. So that's a big difference.
So that's a good one we want to come back
We'll
to
come
also.
back to also,
Yep.
right. So let's move on to the subjective, and then we can deal with questions about that. Under the subjective mind, you'll notice that it's a huge area of which we partake also. So we have that part of ourselves that is all of these qualities. And what I like to think of it as, to me, they seem to be unconscious qualities. They're things that we don't think about. So this is the conscious, and this is the subconscious and the unconscious. Okay, and both of them say that. They're both say the subconscious and the unconscious are in the subjective mind. So the similarity in the concepts is that there's soul in both of them. It's not working. Okay. So there's soul in both of them, soul here and soul here. They have a similar definition for soul as well. Under here, Troward says it's cause. And my understanding is he's referring to the same thing over here, which is cause and effect. It causes something to happen. It causes the word or the treatment or the idea to become manifest. And then under the subjective mind over under Troward is the doer. And this is only doing is over here. Here. So you'll see that the concept will be a little bit different, but it's the same idea. I mean, the wording will be a little different, but the concept is similar. And underneath that, the memory of all is also the memory in the subjective. So that means all our conscious, unconscious memories, our memory of our ancestors, the historical memory of everyone. And then the next quality of the subjective mind is that it has creative power. Okay? And that would be what Ernest Holmes would say would be the law. The subject to the objective, over here, under Troward. So it's subject to the objective will. So what the will gives to it, it's subject to, it can't do anything else other than to act upon it and make it into form and manifestation. So that's subject to objective. And then over here you have the servant of spirit. Again, it serves the will, the objective person. Okay, then both have what are known as impersonal attributes, meaning that they act accordingly, always, all the time, respond to everyone the same way. It acts upon whatever you give it. It doesn't judge it whether it likes it. It doesn't want to do it. It doesn't feel like it today. It's tired. It's worked too hard. It just does it. It just acts upon the word. Okay, the next quality that both agree on is the receptivity. And this is receptive, and over here there's receptivity. Then both agree that deductive reasoning applies for the subjective. And the reason for that is, again, it's acting upon what it's given to. It doesn't in any way question it. It just does what it's told to do. And then over here, Troward says mental pictures, which would be all of our mental visual memories or any thoughts like that. And he calls for